Calling every son of liberty, every right away, what they do today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad. And your children not to cry, all the boys in line. Over there, over there, the words in the world over there. But the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming, boom, boom, coming everywhere. Over there, everywhere. The words and the words everywhere. We won't come back till it's over there. Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you had a good Valentine's Day. So, as you may have guessed, I'll be cleaning historical artifacts today. So, I like to think I have a somewhat decent backing in history. So, naturally, I want to show that off. And of course, please forgive me if I screw up a few different facts. Oh, hello, Pluvium. So please forgive me if I screw up different facts or disassembly. Oh, Millie the Skelly. I afford all this by being dirt poor. That's how I afford it. So, if I ever complain about not having a lot of money, don't feel bad for me. There's a reason for it. It's not a good reason, either. I mean, I guess that's one thing my parents always say, too, is, oh, Atropa, like, we really don't like your gun collection. And I'll be like, what's wrong with guns? And it's like, it's not a bill of needs. Oh no, my parents know better. They know that that investment is probably never going to be liquidated. And now that we have another beer open, let's get started. So naturally, the theme of this first sort of what do you call it? Tableau is gangster. I mean, this is the St. Valentine's Day stream. So how could I do a St. Valentine's Day stream without the epitome of St. Valentine's Day weapons? The Thompson. Naturally, this is a reproduction because I don't have the money for an original. Originals are very pricey. But it's very simple. It's heavy, but it's simple. Pretty solid milled receiver right here, too. This button withdraws the stick mags. Charging handle. Of course, on an original, this charging handle will naturally be in the back position. And then, of course, original's open bolt, but this is a semi-automatic conversion, or semi-automatic commercial one. And of course, the infamous drum mag. I say infamous because this is an absolute bitch on the semi-auto ones especially. It's an absolute bitch to take off. Supposedly there's a bolt hold open on the commercial ones, but I have yet to see any sign of it. So yeah, I guess they're just purposely going out of their way to make it more difficult. But, I mean, this is kind of like the quintessential gangster gun, so it is the St. Valentine's Day gun. But the drum mags were hated universally by troops. You may have noticed how, if you're really observant, you may have noticed how for the reference for today's stream's promotional artwork, I used a very famous picture of Winston Churchill, cigar and pinstripe suit included, as my reference. And of course there's the fleeing bass player, but that's a whole other reference. I'm sorry, but I had to reference a romantic comedy for Valentine's Day. Since, I mean, even if it didn't involve the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Oh yeah, no, there's a very famous photo of Winston Churchill in a pinstripe suit, smoking a cigar, and loading a Thompson submachine gun with a drum mag. And of course, it was used by propaganda by both the Axis and the Allies. Oh god, is my model stuck? Yep, no, it's fixed. So yeah, I mean, the Thompson is infamous as a gangster gun, but it was also heavily used until they made lighter submachine guns, because honestly, this thing is, for a submachine gun, it is heavy. Very heavy and hefty. Of course, it shoots 45 too, which is very... Even the M3 grease gun was better submachine gun overall. Plus that one, you could easily swap out between calibers between 45 and 9mm. Let's see, other ne'er-do-well guns. There's this Merlin Hubert, which actually, it's kind of a Old West gun, but it does feature in one of the Godfather movies. Okay, so actually how it loads is super cool. You press this, rotate this, and pop this open. And then you can put in your .38 Smith & Wesson cartridges. And then to disassemble, there's this, right here, I believe. Yeah, this one. And it's disassembled for cleaning. Or field strip, at least. I don't know, I think they're cool. They're very cool. They're underrated, and they're double action. Oh, it's really cool, though. That's what matters, isn't it? How cool the gun is. It's a bitch to get back together, though. Just need to remember that these need to come apart like that. And there. And you see this rotates just with the trigger pull. Very neat gun. Oh, the Calico family is just outright one of the coolest weird mags. Oh, and this, in case you haven't guessed, this one's mainly pocket revolvers. So there's this Kolb pocket revolver, which is chambered in .22 short. For example, like for comparison, here's a 45 ACP cartridge that the Thompson would have. This is super small and super cute. That pin comes out, and this sort of just rotates out. And as you can see, a mostly full cylinder of 22 short. Oh, these were marketed for self-defense. I mean, actually, the cartridge was invented. 22 short was actually like one of the first commercially available metallic cartridges. And it was invented for self-defense by Smith & Wesson way back in, I want to say, the 1914s or 1950s. For the longest time, they held the patent on bored-through cylinders in America, the roll-and-white patent. So naturally, they had a monopoly until that patent expired. Everybody else was just using cap-and-ball revolvers. And I guess these, these little pocket 22s were also very popular. Vest pocket 22s. Like, that literally just drops right in a vest pocket. Very, very convenient. And very, very cool. And of course, need to reload it, because who knows? Somebody might break in on Valentine's Day. And you never know when you might need to defend yourself. So, stay safe. Treat every weapon as if it's loaded, and make sure it's actually loaded. But also, don't pull the trigger, because, yeah. Ooh, then there's this, Walther Waffen Fabric 32. Let's see if I can actually remember how this, loads. I believe. Pull it back a little bit. No, I'm not going to bother with it. Just very cool. Also in a very light caliber. Yeah, realizing after the fact that this stream is going to take forever if I disassemble every gun. Plus, I don't want to screw around if I can't remember how to load it. And I guess surplus 1911s were very common on the civilian market following World Wars. So, of course, 2 World Wars and all sorts of criminal activity, because they were, again, very, very convenient. And, of course, very simple to take apart. Just pop that out. Well, I did not do this the right way either, so forgive me for being stupid. Actually, that shouldn't have worked. That really shouldn't have worked. Actually, it's kind of concerning that that worked. Of course, this isn't my only 1911, but... Oh, yeah. And if you look closely, you'll see the U.S. property marks on it. Yeah, it's this way. Actually, you can't see it, but yeah, there's U.S. property marks on this one. Oh yeah, you can see it. And of course, they're super easy to reassemble too. Just sort of put this back in here. Wow. I am totally just mucking everything up tonight. Totally just mucking everything. And that's a high power. There, I put it. Yeah, sorry. There's just so many different receivers and grips. That's hard to even keep track of all of them. This goes in here. This goes back up here. Yeah, no, I zoned out completely. I know how 1911 goes together. I'm just testing you. Totally not blanking out. Yeah, you need this. Goes in here. Oh, 1911s are great. I love them. I actually regularly carry a 1911 because I honestly just don't care, and I just open carry because why not? It's my right to, as a free American. I may be a forest witch, but I'm an American forest witch. Piece like that, and that goes forward. Easier if you have the safety on. Oh, I don't like plastic. And yeah, that's something I forgot to do. Almost dropping parts too. God, I'm just absolutely a wreck today. Can't do anything right. All on my own for Valentine's Day. Oh, I don't like plastic guns. You know what? I'll just do this the right way, not the wrong way like I've been doing. And there, reassembled. Oh, plastic gat on the left. Oh yeah. Of course, you need to have a Glock 40, or a Glock 45 in this case, if we're going over criminal weapons. It's a Glock 45. Actually, probably should put these over there. Unload, show clear. Look in the chamber to make sure it's empty. Dry fire. Pull back slightly. Pull down on this. And off it goes. And we can take everything apart from right here. Super simple. And it is a 45 double stack, so very, very convenient. And it's a real man's cartridge, too. Not like one of those wimpy 9mm. Who even likes 9mm? I have no idea. Pop off the mag, of course. Oh, double stacks are... Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm guessing California. I am so, so sorry. And, of course, if we're talking gangsters, I'm sorry, but this is a Yakuza stream. So we have the Shirasaya right here. You can sort of see the hum on. And naturally, it wouldn't really be a Japanese... Oh, hello, Ricker. Wouldn't be Japanese gangster without a Tokarev. A lot of these were kind of imported from God, forgive me, it's been a while since I've actually taken this apart, so stuff might be a bit janky. Oh, you realize I'm gonna have to actually, I'm gonna have to disable the screen too, once I get through all these. Oh yeah, Tokarevs are insane with how hot that cartridge is. And I have a friend actually who has a case of a Tokarev submachine gun ammo. Of course, you don't want to shoot that out of one of these because it's even hotter than regular Tokarev, which can defeat at least level 3 body armor, if not more. But still, they're just really cool. I just think they're cool. And speaking of criminals, here's a... Yeah, that joke might be a bit too much. But this is Browning High Power. One of the last big projects John Moses Browning worked on. This one is actually made in Israel. So it's an Israeli high-power pistol. But these are just really cool. Like, very, very cool. Quite frankly, I think they're amazing. Pretty much, it was pretty much like the last thing John Moses Browning worked on in his life. After people convinced him 9mm 9mm actually was a viable cartridge. And I guess guns are always safer if there's a round in the chamber. Actually, no, they aren't, but they're fine. And then let's go back to the age of the highwaymen. Highwaymen would have carried a pistol like this. This is what's known as a horse pistol. It's pretty much you'd keep it in like a holster on the side of your horse. And actually this is original, but somebody refinished it, so that kills the value. Of course, the way it actually works is pretty simple. You pretty much put powder and ball in this, tamp it down, like so. Take a percussion cap, put it on the nipple, pull to full draw, and you might want to take off your headphones for this part. Actually, I'll just do it like this. Oh, yeah. And then it does this. I forgot about that wall right there, so it might take a little bit for my hearing to come back. And then, these pocket revolvers are pretty cool too. Oh, that wasn't too bad because I turned the microphone away, and I forgot this wall right next to me would reflect the sound back onto me. But lessons learned. Not the first time I've had a desk pop, and wouldn't be the last time. Ooh, this Mauser pistol. Very cool. It's like a 25 ACP one. I honestly, like, pocket pistols are like one of the neatest things. Of course, the heel mag on this one's very, very rough. We'll just keep it loaded. And of course, I occasionally carry it, because who doesn't like carrying a little 25 pistol? Speaking of 25 well, actually this is 32 ACP. This is the Scorpion, or the Clob, as some people call it. Of course, want to clear it. This was actually developed, I believe, this was developed as a Czech personal defense weapon. So the originals actually had stocks, and it goes full, and they were full giggle. But of course, can't have full giggles in the States because everything's horrible. But we manage. That goes forward, tilts up, and you get access to the internals for cleaning. And of course you need Miku for your club. That's a given. And that's all the guns I have out here. So forgive me for a bit for... Actually, I need to sip first. I need to reset the stage. So forgive me for a bit for turning this off. Well, I'll still be here. I'll just be grabbing more. Ignore any banging sounds you hear. Unless they're really loud. Oh wait, that one's not. Few more things to grab. More than a few more things to grab. Let's see, this one. Actually, I probably should stick with a couple of guns for now. we're back. Okay, so these are all single-action revolvers and wheel guns. Actually, I probably should move this one too. Oh wait, I'm missing one. Sorry, that's the one I was carrying. Oh, I just thought Miku was cute. I wanted Miku on that one. So as you can see, this is probably the oldest in design, if not actually the oldest one out here. This is a Colt Walker. Okay, so, oh yeah, this Remington is the oldest one. I'll explain that more about that later. So originally there was the Colt Patterson. Of course, Colt called that because it was manufactured in Patterson, New Jersey by Colt. But of course, it didn't sell that much at the time, and Colt went out of business. But his revolver was loved by the Texas Rangers, who used it a lot in all their wars and skirmishes. And Captain Walker of the Texas Rangers decided that they needed more of them. So he tracked Samuel Colt down and asked for a specific revolver. He wanted something similar to the Colt Patterson, but with a much, much larger chamber. In .45. And he wanted match pairs for several companies. So they ended up coming up with the Colt Dragoon. So these chambers can fit up to 70 grams of black powder, although they normally downloaded them to 60, because there was a problem with the loading lever being blown out of place and falling down with the full 70 grain load, and that also caused the frame to stretch. So this was the most powerful production handgun up until the invention of 38 Special. No, 357 Magnum. 38 Special wasn't super strong. It's actually a pretty pleasant target load. So that's the Colt Dragoon. And then the Civil War broke out. And at that point, cap and ball revolvers were ubiquitous. And there are a few different ones. There's this 1816. This one actually has a fluted barrel, but this is a repro, which I believe is most famous as far as Hollywood movies goes, from the movie The Outlaw Josie Wales, where he has two of these, along with two Colt Dragoons, which are similar to the Colt Walker. And Colt's biggest competitor was Remington. And this is the Remington New Army in .44 caliber. And of course what sets this one apart actually is that's actually a Civil War issued one. If you look very closely at the stocks, because on these old handguns the grips are called stocks, you can see the inspector stamp when this was approved and accepted into federal service. So this is an actual Civil War revolver. And the really funny thing is it actually functions better than my modern reproduction. After literally being used in a major war, and 160 years later, it still can shoot and hit a target fairly accurately. And this actually goes apart like this. Of course, there's a famous clip of Clint Eastwood doing this. I want this half cock. And that falls out. Well, these, I'm not going to do it with this one because it's loaded. You have to push out this wedge, which actually is kind of acting like a bitch. Yep, I totally won't worry about those loaded guns. There. And then that pulls forward. Should pull forward. There. God, that is stuck on there. And you can see. And that is a very distinctive click, click, click. Which you can hear on some of his later guns, too. Because after the Civil War, especially once the Roll and White patent that Smith & Wesson held was defunct, everybody wanted bored-through cartridges. There were all sorts of conversions of these old cap and ball revolvers. But Colt didn't want to give conversions to the military. They wanted... Hold on, I need to get the hand. Colt didn't want to sell conversions to the military, and he had to deal with his competitors, Smith & Wesson. He ended up coming up with the Smith & Wesson Model 2, I think. So then that leads us to the Colt Single Action Army. Hold on. Half cock. That one fell on the floor. I'll pick up there. So you notice this one actually has a top strap, which makes it much, much stronger. But disassembly on these is super easy. You just press this button down, pull out this pin, open this, and the cylinder comes right out. And then you can just put a cleaning rod through there. And this was originally offered in a cartridge Colt invented, 45 Long Colt, although it was also offered in a bunch of other cartridges. And by the end of it, it was offered in everything from 45 Long Colt to 32-20 to 22 Long Rifle to his competitor Winchester's 44-40, which is actually what this one's chambered in, is 44-40. This is actually a modern one, where if you look at these, which are based off the original, the firing pin is here on the hammer. So that hits this, causing it to go off. While on Ruger's and apparently modern Berettas, they don't have that. They have this disconnect thing, so you can have this thing come up and stop. That way you can actually load 6 rounds. Because that was actually a problem with all these old guns, is if you have the hammer down, the hammer is resting against this. So if something hits this, and the pin is resting against the cartridge, it could go off when you don't want it to, which is usually a bad thing, guns going off when you don't want them to. So what they would do is cowboy loading. So you put a round in, skip a chamber, then put in 4 more. And I dropped that one cartridge, so I guess I'll just have to take one for my belt. Because I'll be honest, I don't always wear the witch outfit, but today I'm wearing the witch outfit, which if you notice has a gun belt. And then this goes down on an empty chamber, making it safe to carry. Or safer. So those are all the single action revolvers that I have immediately on hand. Now, let's reset the scene again. Actually, I don't want that there. Let's go with other American guns then. What is it? What the fuck is the brand? Okay, that's actually going to annoy me, but I don't have time for that right now. One last look over. Oh yeah, there's that one. Oof. Okay. And we're back. Okay, these are American rifles besides the M1 Garand, which apparently I left in my living room and don't feel like grabbing. So I guess the oldest, actually the oldest is this one, which is the Burnside carbine, which was actually the first metallic cartridge weapon adopted by the US military. Actually, when this was approved, it was 1858. And the Secretary of War, who was in charge of purchasing for these, was Secretary of War Jefferson Davis. Some of you might recognize that name, because he later went on to be a senator, who then resigned his spot as a senator when he accepted the position of President of the Confederate States of America. Because he was a moderate, actually. That's why he got the position. And the way this loads is actually, you open up this, you drop the cartridge in that part right there, close it, that locks in place, put a percussion cap on this nipple, go to full cock, aim, and fire. Which, naturally, I don't want to drop this on a nipple without a cap, so lower the hammer down. And of course it has a saddle loop right here. And this was actually invented by General Ambrose Burnside before the Civil War started. Of course, at the time, General Burnside was primarily known for his engineering skills because everybody thought this was actually a really cool gun. And of course that actually kind of won him goodie point, like kudos. And people kept on trying to get him into very higher end sort of positions, which he refused repeatedly because he was like, I'm just good at building stuff. I'm not suited for commanding actual militaries. Don't get the wrong impression. Don't put me in that position. But eventually they kept on threatening him until he finally took the position as commander of the Army of the Potomac. And of course, he sucked. He was right. He was horrible at the whole actually commanding troops in war battle thing. And it was a disaster. But he can't say he didn't tell them so. But of course, one thing he also noticed was marksmanship among Union troops was kind of shit. A lot of Union troops were from cities and stuff. They didn't have much practice shooting. Unlike the Confederates, who kind of came from more of a agrarian background, which meant a lot more time out in the woods shooting, and a lot more accuracy. So after the war, General Ambrose Burnside decided to make an association to sort of encourage marksmanship among the people, so that way, if there was another war, you wouldn't have to deal with a whole bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing. And that organization is the National Rifle Association, which he was the founder of. So Civil War general, founder of the NRA, and inventor. Is that what General Burnside is most well known for? No. His facial hair was insane. Massive, massive, bushy beard coming off the side of his face. So much so that it's worked its way into the English language as sideburns. So, if you ever wondered what the origin of the word sideburns is, it comes from inventor, kind of a shitty battlefield commander, and founder of the NRA, General Ambrose Burnside. Speaking of that, this is an 1863 model of 1863 rifle musket from Springfield Armory in the United States. Manufactured, of course, in 1863. Oh wait, I'm missing a gun. And of course, chambered in, I believe, 68 caliber. Oh, they thought he commanded troops because he was good at other stuff. And he's like, he's smart. He must be able to be good at commanding troops. Because the military always will have a few stupid people who do political stuff, regardless of what you do. So it's called a rifle musket because musket actually refers to not a smoothbore weapon in general, but a full-length military arm with a bayonet. Of course, those were generally smoothbore because up until the invention of the Minié ball, it was actually too much of a pain in the ass to load rifles for regular infantry. Slow rate of fire, so they just got smoothbores because the emphasis was on putting out more rounds. But after the Minié ball, which had a hollow skirt which actually enabled you to load much easier even for a heavily fought weapon, all the guns got rifled. So the standard issue infantry gun was called a rifle musket because it's a rifled musket. Of course, correct me if I'm wrong on any facts I ever say on here, but that's pretty much the general consensus. And they went through several different models during the war, and they also issued Enfield rifle muskets fairly often. And that reminds me, I need to grab the next one in chronological order. Of course, after the Civil War, there's all sorts of debate on what they should do with all those surplus muskets. A lot of them were actually issued out, were actually surplused, but they still had plenty. So they started experimenting with modifying them to take a cartridge. So those would be the early Allen conversion trapdoor Springfields. Of course, eventually they decided, let's not fuck around with this, and they started making new productions based off that same trapdoor mechanism. The first one of those was actually the model of 1873. Same as the Single Action Army, actually. So when Custer was at Little Bighorn, his troops had 1873 cavalry carbines and Colt 1873 Single Action Armies. Lots of guns made in 1873, apparently. One will pop up later. But this, it's chambered in 4570, meant to shoot a black 45 caliber black powder cartridge with, I want to say 455 grain, correct me if I'm wrong, bullet, pushed by 70 grains of black powder. So pretty much you pop this open, put the cartridge in, close it, pull this to full cock, aim, fire, then repeat. Keep in mind that they've had lever action repeaters in U.S. service since the end of the Civil War. But they wanted to save money on ammo because they're kind of out in the middle of the frontier. They can't constantly get resupplies. So single shots made sense. And at the time, also, the military was super, super obsessed with marksmanship. So they had this insane Buffington sight, which has all sorts of calculations and markings on it for all sorts of different... Pretty much, the sight is calibrated for out to several thousand yards. So, very neat piece of American history, but that's more of a cowboy gun. And then there's World War I, where the U.S. kind of got blindsided and had to go into the war and didn't have enough of their nominally standard issue 1903 Springfields. So instead, luckily a lot of factories were tooled up for making 18 P14 Enfields for the British. So it wasn't too hard to just take that basic design and chamber it 30-06. So that's where you get the US 1917 Enfield, which is the most common infantry rifle issued to American troops during World War I. And it actually is a very good gun, and there was a lot of debate on the best way to, on whether we should go back to the 1903 or stick with the 1917 Enfield. And I guess we, for the most part, went back to the 1903 until we adopted the US Garand, which is in my living room. So that's World War I. And then World War II. Well, World War II, there was the Garand, and then they decided they needed a carbine for officers, drivers, and rear echelon people. So they made this the M1 carbine. Like this one. Of course, this is original inland manufactured. The biggest manufacturer of M1 carbines in the war was Inland Manufacturing Division of General Motors. Of course, a lot of other weird companies made them, like Rockola, the jukebox company, IBM, who you may be familiar with, and just several other companies, because everybody was making guns. I mean, International Harvester Tractors made these. Several switch and signal companies for railroads made these. And these are just really cool guns. 30 carbine is a very fun one to shoot. And yeah, these are just an absolute dream to shoot. Oh yeah, and I still need a 1903 for my collection. I have a Craig Jorgensen. Actually, it's over in the corner, but I don't want to crowd you with too much guns. I'm trying to keep this to some highlights, if you will. Forgive me, but I'm going to need to take a sip of here because I've been talking a lot. It's actually really hot in here. But yeah, I just absolutely love this. It's just a dream to shoot. Very little recoil, and it's just a really fun gun. But I also should grab the next batch. I said I was going to do at least 50, so I'm going to do at least 50, I think. So forgive me for stepping away for a bit. But I need to reset the whole thing. Get this together. This and this one. Now, frankly, I think you're going to like this next section. And scene. Okay, so French Marshall pistols. These are Camilo Delvin 1873s. They're most famous. Actually, I'd say now they're most famous for being featured in the movie The Mummy. If you remember, main character, Brendan Fraser, he has two of these. They're chambered in 11mm French ordnance, a very hefty 11mm heavy lead bullet pushed by black powder. And they're double action. The triggers on these are actually super nice. Yeah, safety, always off. But these were issued to NCOs. Officers had to buy their own pistols, but available to them for purchase are these, the 1874s, the officers' models. And this is with an original holster. So, these are actually blued, while those are in the white. With some parts left in the white as sort of an aesthetic kind of thing. So, very neat, slick action. Of course, taking these apart is kind of a bitch. You have to use this to... Well, actually, there's a way to do it using this lever right here, which also lets you take the cylinder out. And then it has a screwdriver on it, so you can undo the screw. And then put this in here. And the side plate comes off. And all the parts are numbered and serialized on the inside. It's just very cool how you can see it all. That brings it to safety position. And then that fires it. And you can also pull this back and fire it single action. I believe French military manuals at the time said fire the first shot single action and all the rest of the shots double action. But of course, this was antiquated by the end of the 1800s. These were made in 1874 after all. Very robust, heavy. These guns are literally like over 150 years old, and the action is still incredibly smooth. But they needed something a bit faster instead of that slow, heavy 11mm bullet, because these all fire a big, hefty bullet. So the French took that same action, modified it for a smaller and faster cartridge. Also, these have a loading gate, so pretty much you have to pull that back, put it to half cock, which is a safety position, and then put each round individually, which is inconvenient. So they came up with a swing-out cylinder. So very easy to eject, as you can see. But of course, if you're holding it in this hand, that's not really convenient. So again, French manual of arms was actually to pass it over to your other hand and load with your right hand, which they thought would be faster. Although it's really kind of annoying. But even that wasn't good enough. As I noticed during the war, they bought a whole bunch of semi-auto pistols from different manufacturers too. The French pretty much used everything they could get their hands on. The history of French military procurement is most politely described as a clusterfuck. So they decided to hold trials to try and decide what handgun to go with. But the cartridge they picked was actually a weird one-off cartridge originally developed for the Springfield-Peterson device, which I don't even know how to begin explaining what that is without having one available. And there were two guns that won. There are two guns that won the contract. The MLE 1935A, which I don't have on hand right now, and the MLE 1935S, which I have two on hand, including original holster, which is designed to fit both. So this is chambered in 7.65 long. It is very well known as being, for the longest time, almost impossible to get, even get brass for. Where'd that round go? I'll pick it up later. So, originally developed for the Springfield-Peterson device, which was a semi-automatic pistol caliber conversion secret superweapon developed for the 1903 Springfield. Yes, it's not impossible to get, but it's very hard to get. But brass is becoming more available because quite frankly, a certain internet gun celebrity, made enough of a stink about it that Starline started producing brass. You can load your own. I'm not going to say their name, but frankly, I am grateful for them making it actually possible to reload these without having to turn down, I believe it was 38 Smith & Wesson, or 38 Smith & Wesson revolver cartridges. You'd have to turn down the rim and then turn a groove into the rim on a lathe in order to get brass that would cycle through this. Because, yeah, nothing in life is ever easy. And those are all the French revolvers, all the French handguns I have on hand besides the one I desk popped earlier. This is actually French MLE 1822 T-bis. T-bis meaning it was converted from flintlock to percussion. I believe these actually feature in the famous painting Liberty Leading the People, which actually was about a revolt that took place in the 1800s, where you see a little kid, that one little kid in the background, I think it was a little kid in the background, had like two of these and is firing them into the air. Except those are not the T-bis, they're the original flintlock action. Of course, this probably made its way into the US because the French pretty much sold off all their crappy horse pistols to the Confederacy, who just needed anything that could send a bullet downrange. So while that's not guaranteed, that's the probable provenance. I mean, it's an educated guess. But then somebody refinished the stocks, added all sorts of engraving, which adds no technical advantage whatsoever, and just kind of bubbled it up. But it's still a cool gun. Yeah. French history is really a clusterfuck. I mean, how many, like, they're on their, what, fourth or fifth republic by now? Several republics, they had several kingdom, at least one kingdom, after the infamous first, like, infamous French Revolution with the guillotine. Several empires, the last one ending after the Franco-Prussian War in the 1860s, 70, I don't know, it's been a while since I've read on it. I have read on it, but it has been a while. But they have a very interesting arms procurement history. Actually, on that note, I probably should swap these out for the next one. Yeah, all these revolvers. I mean, I'm probably the only person who keeps stocks of 6 foot long and 11 meter French ordnance. And I'm not telling you to buy stuff for me, but I do have 8mm Lebel on my throne. And let's go full baguette. Okay, this one, I guess goes over here. Then this one. This one. Oh wait, all those guns are right there. I need to move those. Don't worry, that was just a pure size sword. And actually I'll have to have these waiting in the wings, because there's more. Okay. And we're back. Okay, so I believe the first one we'll start with is the oldest. Oldest here, naturally being... Actually, let me move these. Something else fell, but that's fine. This one. Okay, I just stabbed my ceiling, but don't worry. The Gras rifle. These were actually based off of the action of an earlier gun, the Chassepot. The Chassepot was actually needle fire, which meant it had a paper cartridge, but fully self-contained. And there was a needle that would puncture the back of the paper cartridge, hit a percussion cap that was in there, and send the round downrange. But paper cartridges are just really inconvenient. If they get wet, they're ruined. So they modified it to be able to shoot brass cartridges. So there's this one, which is the MLE 1874. This being the modified Model 80. Of course, the Chassepot was originally issued by, I believe, the Second French Empire, run by Napoleon. Of course, I mainly know them because the Emperor Josephina was a major patron of the House of Worth, which was the first couture house to exist, and pretty much invented haute couture as a whole thing. So it's single shot, chambered in 11mm Gras. So black powder cartridge. So drop the cartridge in there, take this, close it, and push it down. And aim and fire. Now I'm going to try and move this without stabbing my ceiling again, which is easier said than done. And of course the bayonet on these are super cool too. It looks like a sword. Let me take that off for a bit. That's why I stabbed my ceiling. Yeah, it's literally a massive sword. And you can see the manufacturer date, 1878, on the bayonet. So, very cool, I think. And of course, side-mounted, which I believe is a holdover from the Gras. But naturally, single-shot black powder weapons wouldn't work out. Or rather, they were superseded. Because the French happened to invent something very, very amazing. Smokeless powder. Pretty much, black powder, it's very dirty and builds up a thick coating and stuff. Lets out a, like, big cloud of smoke and fire, just very noticeable and very dirty. Which means that more complex mechanical actions aren't really going to cut it. But French chemists invented a smokeless powder. A powder that pushes bullet without all that smoke and dust. And they realized, and at a much higher velocity, so they realized they need to take advantage of that. They need to develop a gun to take advantage of this new smokeless powder. So they pretty much designed it by committee based on several other guns in their inventory, and pretty much just necking down that 11 millimeter Gras to 8 millimeters. And that brings us the Lebel rifle, which has a tube magazine. And you can get up to 9 shots in there if you do this little trick with leaving a round in that thing that goes up. Oh, I believe I need to do this to get that to work. See how that comes up when you pull it back? Then this goes down, and that goes back down. Then, yeah. Very cool, but it was very revolutionary at the time. And I guess the best example of these used in movies besides World War I movies is the beginning of The Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser. But even by World War I, these were outdated. So they replaced it with something that was originally a carbine They modified it to have a 5-shot magazine. And that's where the Berthier comes in. Of course, that Gras, I believe, was manufactured in Saint-Étienne, which is a major center of arms manufacturing in France. Was. Actually, FAMAS comes from Fusil. Actually, I'm not going to pretend to speak French. And we have this Berthier. 5 shots in the magazine. It loads from an en-bloc clip. So this one was actually very heavily used in World War I, as you may notice from all the repairs in the stock. Probably fired a few times. Shit. I'll need to organize stuff. Dropped a few times, reissued to the next person, and dropped again. Kind of dark, actually. But still very interesting. And then after the war, the French decided that they needed something semi-automatic. So they put all these committees together and had a whole thing of rolling out guns for the next conflict. But they realized they wouldn't be ready in time, so as a stopgap, they came up with this, the Moss 36. It fires a 7.5 French cartridge, which actually a very smooth, very heavily well-built infantry arm, short, but the coolest part is this. If you look closely, the bayonet stores in the gun, and it goes on here. So very easy bayonet storage. And honestly, a very good shooting rifle. But of course, you saw how that worked out for the French in World War II. This is actually a pre-war one. So, by the time of the Second Indochina War, which in America we know as when the French screwed up Vietnam and left us with the problem, we have the Moss 4956, also in 7.5 French, because there's all sorts of debate about what caliber NATO was going to use, but NATO was kind of unsure which way they were going to go. So the French just went and stuck with their own cartridge. This is 10-shot semi-automatic direct impingement rifle. This isn't real fucking NATO, unfortunately. Which makes it more expensive to feed. Actually, Century Arms has did a bunch of conversions of these, but the conversions are incredibly shitty. Like, if you see one, don't buy it. Of course, this is also designed as a DMR if need be. It has this rail, which lets you mount a scope. And also, the coolest part, built-in rifle grenade launcher. Well, I say built-in rifle grenade launcher, but actually, the A2 birdcage on AR-15s also works as a rifle grenade launcher for standard 20mm NATO rifle grenades. And I believe it's time to reset the stage again, except I also need to go to the bathroom and put guns away. So, if you don't mind an extra ad break, I'll try to get back in a decent time. Wait, why can't I find a... Crap. Shit. All these guns. Okay, and should be back. Back. Sorry about that. I have way too many guns around here. Okay, so. Anyways. These are Arisakas. Japanese rifles. So, this is a Type 38, which was chambered in 6.5 Japanese, and I believe they were used until the beginning of World War II, and then into World War II, because they had issues getting more. This is an early war Type 38, or Type 99. You can see it has the dust cover. And it has this, although somebody took away the anti-aircraft sights on this one. So, and this one actually still has the chrysanthemum, which was the symbol of the emperor. Afterwards, they scrubbed a lot of those because you can't let the emperor's property get to American hands. But you can still occasionally find ones that have it. This is a late war one. You can see it's much rougher construction, has this two-part stock, and instead of an actual proper rear sight, it just has peephole. It's a late war, but it's not a last stitch yet. And most interestingly of all for Japanese rifles, there's this type I. You may notice that the action looks a bit different. That's because this is actually a Carcano action. So pretty much, the Japanese Navy did not get along with the Army. They had to use different procurement systems. And they ended up using Carcano actions purchased from the Japanese, well, the Italians, who were, on paper, their allies at the time. Although I guess next time without Italy. And they ended up using Carcanos as for the Japanese Navy, like Marines and everything. Of course, chambered in, I believe, still Japanese cartridges, but very underrated history fact. And this is going to go black again because I didn't actually have enough time to make a head call. So, forgive me for constantly going dark, but I need to check on something. And I need to remember to mute my mic for this. And we're back with the remaining Japanese. guns. Okay, so of course we have rifles, but naturally we had pistols too. This is probably the most famous Japanese pistol, the Japanese Type 14 Nambu. Of course, not usually, especially later in the war, these weren't the best made, but they're super cool. You just pull that back to load it. And pretty ergonomic. Of course, 8mm Nambu isn't the strongest cartridge. In fact, this gun was inspired a young gunmaker from America named Bill Ruger, who ended up coming up with the Ruger 2240, well, the Ruger Mark I target pistol, or like semi-automatic pistol. I'm definitely not disassembling this because these are an absolute bitch to disassemble and reassemble. But they needed more pistols, especially since this is kind of big. So, oh no, the second was inspired by the first, this one. Of course, even 8mm Nambu was a bit too much for this. Not the strongest action, but a neat action. So, that's Type 14. They also came out with the Type 94, which was actually preferred by tank crews in Japan. This actually has one, some people might call it a design flaw, but I think it's cool, so I call it a feature. That makes it very renowned among American collectors. So, watch closely. My hand is not going to touch the trigger. But if I just press right here, if there's a round in there, this would have gone off. It is... I put how many rounds through this? And I cannot remember the last time I touched the trigger to shoot it. You just press the button on the side and it goes off. Which normally would be considered a major design flaw. But I just think it's so fucking fun. Just press the button and pop. Very cool. And I guess it doesn't do that if the safety is on, so it's not the worst. Now, on to the other Japanese guns we have available right here. We have this one, made by Moroku, the Moroku Liberty Chief. Of course, Moroku primarily got their start actually just plagiarizing work by other manufacturers. But of course, the Browning Company found out about it, saw the quality of their work, and it's just like, you know what, we'll just license you, because these are actually really good. Which of course leads to this Japanese rifle, the Winchester 73. Of course, in reality, these were never actually manufactured in... The originals were never actually manufactured in 45 long Colt. But 3 pros are, which makes it a lot easier, because it's a lot easier to find 45 long Colt than 45, 44, 40, which is what these were originally chambered in. Very slick action, chambered for a pistol cartridge, so that way you can use the same cartridge in your pistol as your rifle. And just a lot of fun. Actually, these are manufactured by the same company that makes the steering wheel for Lexuses. Always thought that was a very interesting fact. Probably should actually put these other 2 cartridges in here. Also, I'll just say when I started this, I didn't realize how hard it would be dealing with 60 guns spread out across one room. But I suppose you learn things. Luckily I didn't decide to do my whole collection, because that would just be insanely... Oh yeah, no, I hate that. You can't get Japanese Type 89s. Can't get any other of the cool stuff. Well, actually, these are cool, but you know what I mean. And now, on to the next ones. Let's go a bit more. Okay, it's okay. Let's go a bit more German. Let's see, am I forgetting anything? I think that's all the pistols. Oh wait, no, there's these. And I could swear I had more around here somewhere, but you know what, it's fine. So this is the... Oh no. Okay, actually, we're gonna get on that whole modified scar thing later. There is a whole list of things about the scar. Okay. This is a broom handle Mauser, which has these tangent sights too in the stock, so you can actually use it as a kind of a rifle. Interesting fact, this is actually the parent cartridge for that Tokarev. So even for the time, the late 1800s, very spicy cartridge and very cool. But the stock also doubled as a holster, so you could keep it in the holster if you needed to, and then take the wooden stock part out of this holster frog thing, and yeah, do that. Very cool. And of course, you see, naturally don't want you looking at the serial number, so it's been a bit. I need to redo the bluing, actually. Normally the bluing should look like a bright, vibrant blue like that, but it's kind of worn off. And I guess the roll mark right there is missing, too. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do prefer guns with prefer their C96s with a bright, bright bluing. But wear and tear. So these are just... Yeah, C96s are just super cool. They actually load with a strip clip from up here. Very neat, very cool, etc., etc. And of course, everybody knows the Luger. Actually a toggle lock. This is a very late war, actually kind of refurbished in the 20s. Chambered in 9mm parabellum. Cartridge practically made for this gun, and still in use today. And then there's this Mauser HSC. Oh wait, I forgot. Another tangentially German gun. This is actually Austrian, but it's the Dreiser. And this is actually Belgian, but it was used by the Germans. And where is it? This is a Steyr. So, chambered in 9mm Steyr. This would have been used by the Austrians in World War I. Also loads from a stripper clip. But it's loaded, and loading and unloading this one is absolutely a bitch. So I'll leave it as is. This was used by police and later by limited use during the First World War. It's actually a striker-fired, really cool, really weird-looking gun. Just look at how ugly and mean, like, just, it's a very odd-looking gun. I love it just because it's odd-looking. And then there's this 1922. Pretty much this was an update on the Browning 1910, also known as the deadliest pistol in the world, because that was what Gavrilo Princip used. But this one actually was manufactured during World War II. And you can tell that because of the grips, which are square, and by all the angry pigeons holding these little spiral thingies. You can guess what I mean by that. That are stamped on it. So yeah, after Belgium was captured, rather than tooling up the factories to make their own guns, the Germans just adopted whatever guns the factories were making. Which is also why, like, the Germans used Craig Jorgensens during World War II for auxiliary purposes. But this one is actually, it's a bit snappy, but very fun to shoot. And that's now hot, so yeah. And then this actually isn't German. This is actually a Danish Lottie. I mean, they're manufactured by Sweden. But this was actually issued and used by the Danes because it has the D prefix on the serial number. Looks, on the outside it looks similar to a Luger, but functionally it's completely different. And I don't feel like fucking around with that, so I'm probably not going to disassemble it. There. So very, yeah. And it looks like it's time for another beer. And now I need to decide what guns are going to be featured next. You thought this was... I did say I was going to have anything 50. This one. Let's see, what other ones are there? Oh, that's where the Grand was. It was in a corner. Nate, no, that's the Enfield. Never mind. Sorry. I don't know why I zoned out on that. Oh, there's the Grand. Okay, this is an M1 Grand, the standard issue infantry rifle of the Americans during World War II. Everybody mainly knows it because of the fact that you might get your finger pinched with the end block clip. Because that actually hits with a lot of force if you aren't careful. So this is the M1 Grand. And let's see. I'm not gonna get my fingers stuck in there live. There's also videos of people doing much worse, getting much worse things stuck in there. So, I forgot where I put my Gewehr 98. But right here we have a Gewehr, a Mauser Gewehr 7184. Single shot, No, not single shot. It's a tube magazine. Back in the black powder days. So this would have been near the end of German unification, when it stopped being Prussia and a bunch of other German states and started just being the German Empire. So it'd be around that time period. This one was manufactured in Spandau. And yeah, tube magazine, super cool. I guess I described everything as super cool. Oh wait, everybody knows the ping too from the carbine. No, the Garand. This is World War I, Gewehr 98, but cut down to a carbine and with a trench mag installed. So, I guess for stormtroopers, which is also why it has this very sort of brutal looking bayonet on the end. Just look at the tip of that blade. So just imagine, like, load like 30 rounds into this, 30 rounds of 8mm Mauser into this absurdly large box mag. And just constantly do it. Yeah, this would be an absolute bitch to mag up. And then moving on to the Second World War, because I can't recall where I put my Gewehr 98, which is First World War. Normal, though. We have this. This is a Car 98. Car meaning carbine, obviously. So this is kind of the main infantry weapon of the Second World War. And you can tell this is Second World War because, again, it has all those angry birds is what I would call them. Like they're just these eagles holding these little windmills, spirals. And luckily my camera can't pick it up, or else Twitch would probably bitch at me for swastikas. But yeah, of course these go for a lot now because everybody wants those Nazi guns. Same with American. Everybody wants American guns, which really just twists the market. Like, Garands go for way more than they're worth. Although you could argue that it's the free market deciding the value, so that's why Garands are worth that much, is because everybody wants them. But most of it's the Elmer Fudd types buying up a fuck ton of Garands and sitting on them. Which I guess they can do, but they're stupid and completely fuck with the actual value of them. So now I guess I need to decide what guns are. Oh, there's the. Actually, no, that's the Enfield. Okay, now on to the next set of guns. Oh good, it didn't actually spill somehow. Oh wait, it did spill. Fuck. Oh yeah, I guess really just hoping the people who inherit it don't destroy it. I can't believe I spilled beer on my bottle opener. Okay. So now, let's just have a bit of Cold War fun. As you may know, this is an Armalite built on an A1 kit. Now, these are pretty much like Legos, super easy to take apart and put together. Oh, bottoms up? Shit. I forgot I had that redeem. Okay, let's go. And actually, like, if you watch the news, everybody calls it an AR, but half the people think AR stands for assault rifle, when no, AR stands for Armalite. These are actually developed by a company called Armalite. Pretty much founded in a garage, but one of their first major contracts was a survival. Well, actually, I don't think they won that contract. I can't recall. Was a neat gun called the AR-7, which is a survival rifle. So pretty much the barrel, it collapses and the barrel hides in the stock. So good for if you get in a plane crash. I believe the book Hatchet has the main character finding one at the end of it. If you remember that book. But I'm working on the redeem right now. And if you'll excuse me, I'll be right back. I need to grab another beer. And back. Thank God I put that on a cooldown because I don't want to be constantly running back and forth to my fridge. Okay. So anyways, the AR-15. This assembly is super simple. Just press this pin, push this, and it breaks apart like this. Might help to clear it though. Bolt comes out like this. Charging handle goes down. Magazine comes out like this. And you can just look down the barrel like that. Very simple. So easy a caveman could do it. And field stripping the bolt is even easier. Just this little pin comes out. I get severe feeling lazy. You can just use the tip of a cartridge or something to get it out. I'm feeling lazy. This goes like this. I guess this bolt is a bit more worn than my other bolts. Yeah, wait, no, yeah. I guess this is less of me showing off that I can disassemble these. Oh, this has the three prong. Shit. Anyways, this has the three prong. Anyways. There, bolt, all these other parts, and now to reassemble. I guess the stream is it's more just seeing whether I can or can't disassemble these while doing stuff to my fine motor control. Yeah, I'm gonna blame that. That's my excuse. See, that goes like that. Rotate that that way. Drop the firing pin in. And this cotter pin goes in that way. Okay. That's not supposed to happen. I swear I know what I'm doing. That is actually really weird. I guess maybe if I hit it with a hammer or something it would work. Or... oh no. It's got, like, stuck. I have no idea why. But I fixed it now. That was actually really weird. I've never had that malfunction happen before. Oh, can I even call it a malfunction? And let's get that pin back in. And there we go. Yeah, reassembling an AR on stream is not the most exciting thing, especially when my fine motor control has been somewhat impaired. There. This goes in here. And forward. This goes there. This goes up. This goes in here. Actually, first probably should have. Make sure everything's okay. So... and it goes right next to the other AR-15, right, that's in my work area. And then now here's the AR-18, or rather AR-180. So somebody mentioned called the new Japanese service rifle a ripoff of the SCAR, but you never thought to think what the SCAR ripped off. Hold on, why is this mag being super difficult? And the SCAR ripped off this, the Armalite 180. Really known, which also, I believe the Korean Daewoo K2 was based off of. The Bren, I want to say Bren 105. I'm not good with numbers. Yeah, all these new revolutionary, modern folding stock guns are just ripoffs of the Armalite. Or me little Armalite, as some people call it. This one's actually manufactured by Sterling. Also, yeah, it's a very handy little gun. This just... let's see if I remember how it goes apart, because I have way too many guns, actually. As you may have realized by now. Like, you just start to lose track of which one is which. It's... you know what? I've had too many to screw around with it. So the AR-18 yeah, it's designed to actually be easily manufactured out of stamped metal, because they wanted to get those lucrative military contracts with companies that may not have the materials or the manufacturing base to make AR-15s. Because unlike the modern day, you can't have the average person just investment cast a lost PLA cast a 3D printed lower like we can do now legally in any free country. But then, oh yeah, this is I'm spending it with my beloveds, which is the guns. I mean, I feel bad about not being able to strip all of them on stream despite claiming to love them. But give me a break, there's over 100 of them. Including duplicates. I mean, you saw how many duplicates I had just of French revolvers. Wow. I don't think it's supposed to happen. And naturally, this, I don't know, what is this thing? It looks like it's something. Okay, this one's actually built on Balkan furniture. Oh. I know at least one person in the past couple years, very well documented case of somebody's life being saved by a forward assist. I won't explain the exact incident because you can find it's very well documented. There's footage showing all the angles, and it was a very publicized trial, but at least one person's life has been saved by a forward assist. So the forward assist, despite Stoner himself hating it, the forward assist actually, it has saved lives if you really need it. So yeah, I'm told if you don't have to use one of these, it is a good day. But they are fun at the range. So there's that, it has got that going for it. Oh yeah, forward assists are kind of cool. Oh yeah, the Donkey Dong. I still think it's funny how Mikhail Kalashnikov and Eugene Stoner actually met up and went to the range and shot each other's guns. Sorry, this is not the best. This is not the newest, so it's a bit rough. Plus, you may notice that this is kind of the receiver was some assembly required, of course. Oh yeah, just imagine, like that would have been just cool to actually be at. Mikhail Kalashnikov and Eugene Stoner meeting up, shooting guns, and just that is the kind of thing dreams are made out of. If your dreams involve military issued weapons of the Cold War, which they do. So that whole thing is just amazing. This has been a very interesting Valentine's Day stream. I've just been calling things cool and amazing while being a few too many in to actually disassemble anything in depth. I'm definitely no Ian. I mean, among other things, I don't have a goatee. Or all those donations for machine guns. I did bid on a show shot at one point, but it went way over my budget. And also, I'm poor. And my budget wasn't that big to start with. I was just hoping nobody else would bid, but it was a dream. And now I need to find a few more things to throw up here. Or, not, you know what I mean, put up here. Oh, here like spaghetti. Have you ever seen what it looks like when $5,000 worth of firearms falls over? I have, just now. God damn it, Ellie. Let's see, what else was I going to put up here for this? Oh, thanks for the follow, Mila. Just need to look over and see what else I need to grab. This is a good start. Okay, so now we're on the spaghetti, some of which may have been dropped. Actually, fuck it. I can grab another one. Of course, it's actually, like, in a special holder by my bed, because it's actually one of my many bedside guns. Okay, I'll be honest, these aren't the first Italian guns to show up here. Near the beginning, when I showed all the single-action revolvers, at least half of those are made in Italy. Oh, that should be like that. Okay, so this is the same action used in the Benelli M4, which is current issue in the military. But of course, yeah. It's a bit tricky and annoying to use. Glorified door opener. Although this is a kind of a alternating between buck and slugs. Actually, I kind of screwed up the order. I should fix that. Yeah, I kind of want buck to be the first one. But also, this is super, super light. And interestingly enough, if you live in Manhattan, well, actually you can't buy one of these if you live in Manhattan, but if you ever go to Manhattan, you can actually buy one of these from the Beretta store. Very cool store. The people who work there are super nice. Okay, so that's one piece of spaghetti. But then there's this, which is actually the second Carcano to show up. But it is the first Carcano that was actually, like, used by Italians. Naturally, if you look at this, this looks like a piece of firewood with a gun action inserted. But this is actually legally an antique. It was manufactured in the late 1800s. And I actually received this as payment for work. So this, if anybody ever asks what this cost, I'll just say 2 holsters and a gun belt. And of course, these also use sort of end block clips. Don't worry, I report even my naturally report even my barters to the IRS because I don't want to get fucked on taxes. And then there's this Italian surplus. This is a Beretta 81. And these actually hit the US surplus market fairly recently. So I got this one for $100 because it's Italian police surplus. But it's a very neat, handy pistol, and actually I like it better than my concealed carry Glock, which also does not feature in this movie. And last but definitely not least is the Beretta 90 or the Beretta M9. This is actually marketed as an M9. Naturally, this is a commercial one because the military ones suck because they've been issued since the 80s. So they're like the most clapped out pieces of shit you ever would have handled if you ever handled one during the GWAT. But don't let that actually spoil you on that, because I'll be honest, I hated M9s until I handled a modern production one. This one's actually manufactured after they moved away from Maryland. because they actually moved out of Maryland because they wanted to actually sell stuff in a state they were allowed to sell stuff in. So that's why they moved to Tennessee. So this is a new production one, so it's not a janky piece of shit like all the issued ones were. Then again, the military replaced it with a gun that's a piece that I actually know. I can't criticize SIG too much because one of my favorite handguns in my collection has the same issue of going off when it's not supposed to. So can I really judge Sig Sauer when one of my favorite handguns in my collection has the same issue? Exactly, I can't. In fact, I just need to say that again. It is the most fun thing ever. Even just dry firing it. Like, in all the times I've taken this to the range, I cannot remember the last time I pressed the trigger. This is just so fun. Just listen, listen, listen. Yeah, it's not worth the price. In the past, SIG made good guns, but they're probably never going to live down that 320 debacle. And you notice I have this in a shoulder holster, so I can have like over 45 rounds on tap, even without my belt mounted mag pouches I have. So I can literally just go out with like hundreds of rounds of 9mm if I ever want it. Not that I'm going to, because that's kind of just excessive from a weight perspective. Oh, what do you mean you don't go out carrying 200 rounds? Which I have done before. Not out of any paranoia, but because I could. Let's see, what else do I have left to show off? I guess now is just when I fill in everything else I missed in the past. Something's kind of smelly, I'll be honest. Actually, we should move this AR-18. Wait, what clip? That has to be you trolling me. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Oh, CLP. I'll be honest. This one. Actually, I need to make sure that's actually sealed. Bought it for $5 at a gun show a decade ago. What kind of clip-a-zines have I got? Well, you already saw the Thompson. You saw these various AR-15 M16 mags, which work with other stuff too. Well, they're standard. Okay, well, here's the one I was talking about, the missing. This is just almost a bog standard Gewehr 98 from the First World War. Actually, it's a Gewehr 98M, because they were allowed to keep a few of them after the Treaty of Versailles. And the M's were modified before they decided, fuck the Treaty of Versailles, we're doing what we want. So this would have been Weimar Republic era. They got rid of the ladder sights that were common in the First World War. And they upgraded to this. And then, on the other side of that war, besides the numerous other guns, we have the Enfield. And of course, this is a First World War One. I don't know. I've changed up my collection a little bit. So chambered in 303 British. And what's neat about this one is it still has the volley sights. So at the time, they still were planning for mass formations, shooting at one target. So they had these volley sights. So pretty much you get a whole group of people, and this is outside of the recommended range for point targets with a rifle. And you'd all just sort of set this for the estimated range, and then you'd shoot as a volley. Well, that was the theory, at least. In practice, nobody did that. It's just as much of an anachronism as the magazine cutoff, which this also has, which was where it was assumed you'd be single loading unless shit really hit the fan. Then you'd flip off the magazine cutoff and use this, where they viewed the magazine as a reserve. And lastly, this actually is lastly, I believe. I think I've run through all the guns where yeah, that was military doctrine at the time, which I guess you can assume is kind of stupid. But lastly, you have these Smith & Wesson. These were just relatively cheap. Anybody could buy one. This one, I believe, is a 38. If you shop around, you can get these for super cheap. Of course, it's hard finding ammo, and some of them are rimfire. Top loader, because Smith & Wesson was known for the top breaks at the time. And just a convenient pocket revolver. You slip this in your pocket in case you need to defend yourself in a bad area. And just, that's super cool. I don't know, I think they're neat. Now I'm just looking around the room, seeing if I forgot any rifles or handguns. Oh, I showed this one. Yeah, this is known as a piece of shit stamped metal abomination, but it was very cheap. And up until 1986, you could buy the full auto ones of these. And these are actually still the most common full autos you can find on the market, just because a fuck ton of them were made. Of course, this one's semi-automatic. And it is shitty. It is clapped out. It falls apart if you aren't careful. But I don't know, you get that gangster street cred. I started on gangster guns. I should end on a gangster gun. And I guess that's what these are known for. Just that. And I believe that's it for today's Valentine's Day stream. I have because I don't want to show off my whole collection. But I feel this is a good start, at least. I mean, honestly, I have half a dozen in arm's reach, but they don't really fit the theme stream. So I hope you had a good time. I said I'd be cleaning and disassembling them, but I figured after a few of these, I shouldn't disassemble too much or else I'll have problems reassembling it. And I don't want to make more of an ass of myself on stream. But I still feel this fits with the St. Valentine's Day theme of full autos. Well, no full autos, actually. Of Tommy guns. Because that's what this day is known for, isn't it? Gangster stuff, like in Chicago with Thompsons. And I hope you learned a little bit about history, too. And we probably should find somebody to raid. I know other people are doing stuff. I just need to figure out who we're actually going to raid. I believe All Bones Jones was doing a Valentine's Day stream. I think. Totally doing an Valentine's Day stream. Let's raid him. I believe, or was it a brother? Oh, actually, Actually, why can't I find him? I know I was following him. Oh, he has it spelt really weird. Okay, that is just weird, how I can't find him, yet he's showing up. Oh, yeah. I, um, I hope you're glad about getting to sit in on my, maybe he's not available for... Let me double check that. Oh, that's lowercase. That's probably why. That's weird. Maybe my computer's acting weird. Who am I gonna raid? Let's go with Egg. I don't know why this was showing him as being live when he isn't, but let's raid Egg Channel. He's playing Binding of Isaac, I believe. And Egg is also fine. Or just Frank. Egg. Let's go. And I probably should actually solve the weird issue with I don't know, I dropped my keyboard several times during the stream because I literally had too many guns out to really know what to do with. Really kind of awkward. And let's raid.